Zorko back towards the half-forward flank, and Cameron, he is away, he is through the 50, he is unloading for goal and kicking a beauty.
Gives it off to Rayner, and he has slotted it. McCluggage to Ashcroft, and that is why. Lobb comes at it, couldn't complete the mark, tap down, Ashcroft, goal. Goes for the big man, Fort, Berry, front and centre, right through the middle. And he goes for it, and he slots it. What is happening?
In a week where the father-son rule has been questioned fairly heavily by a number of different, not just clubs, but pundits all around the AFL world, we played a game where there was, 6, 7 father-sons playing across the night? At least six. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Who's the fifth and the sixth one? Oh, no, the sixth... Yeah, I don't know. Who's the sixth one?
We've got 3. They had Liberatore, Sam Darcy, and Riley West.
I forgot about Liberatore. Yeah, good.
So
I completely butchered your opening, so, go again.
There was a fair amount, and they all had different impacts across the day. So that is going to be a hot-button topic for the foreseeable future, and obviously Greg Swan is now in the big seat to deal with that side of things. Another good win for the Brisbane Lions coming against the Dogs Friday night at the Gabba, which got off to a weird start with a storm coming through about an hour before the game, and that definitely affected my viewing experience. We'll get into that very shortly. The Ashcroft boys lit it up, and now the Dogs sit, as I was saying to you off air, about 2 games outside the 8 because I'm giving the Suns an extra win with their game in hand. Not good news for them, but great news for us. We did it without Zach Bailey, and it looked like for a brief period of time we were going to do it without Dane Zorko for the latter half of the game as well. A Q clash of epic proportions around the corner, Pat, at People's First Stadium. But let's have a chat about this cracking game against the Dogs on Friday.
It was you missed the first quarter, right? You had a power outage.
I was able to watch it. But yes, the storm came through, wiped my power out, and literally as I was about to sort of get ready to leave to go to the Gabba, therefore the garage doesn't work. What am I going to do with my kid and babysitting and all that sort of stuff? The decision was made, well, I'll just sit back and watch it and resign myself to drinking a couple of red wines at home here, and hopefully it all pans out and we didn't get power back until probably almost half time. So
have you got a red wine tonight? It was a popular one last week, I feel. You don't have it in the chalice this week. You really need
not
that
in the chalice this week.
Overly long-stemmed wine glass that kind of went the whole vertical plane of the camera, which was, it's a highlight for me. Yes, the game was a game, and although the Bulldogs got quite close in the end, I think I heard someone else say it, but I'm going to repeat it. I didn't think that we were at any point actually outplayed by the Bulldogs. They took
I don't believe so.
They took what they could from the scraps that we gave them, and scraps are one thing that I'll talk about possibly later on. Just talking about the run in to finals, because there's not a lot of teams that can outplay us, and we really force our style of game on the teams. But we do give up those scraps, and teams have been feasting on them. So that is a little bit of a shame.
Before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping here. We have started a little bit of a tip jar, buy us a coffee type situation. You can find that at our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com. We're not going to bang on about it because we know it is sort of sticking our hand out a little bit. We love making the podcast each and every week. We love making the videos and all the work that does go into it. And if you like it enough that you feel you want to shoot us a couple of $1 dues, that would be very much appreciated. So that link is available at our website. And of course, so are the shirts. And use the code THANKYOU10 for 10% off the Brisbane Lions Fancast merch. All right, the teams. Obviously, we lost Zach Bailey. And in came Bruce Reville and Sammy Marshall. Sam Day still left out of that team. And Darcy Fort and Big O held their spots. We also, of course, lost Noah Answorth with the Achilles.
I believe Day was available for selection, but they they went for the 2 rucks. And I think on the whole, statistically, it kind of works. We had a lot of good ruck dominance in terms of hit outs and stuff. I don't know how necessarily impactful that is in the modern game, but English kind of got us a little bit around the ground, and there were some kind of defensive efforts that maybe weren't so good. But on the whole, I think it's just a matter of trying to play O into form. And then
he was the situation as a whole was much better than against Carlton. And Fags has been pretty open about it. He mentioned in a few different press conferences across the week and in his post-match, it's going to come down to who we play. So he started Collingwood twice. So if Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox play, we're playing our 2 rucks. He clearly thought it was an issue last week with TDK and Pitnet, and I guess this week against English and Sam Darcy, but I wouldn't have thought that was going to be that much of an issue. But I guess if it is simply to get O into form, then I'm okay with that, because Sam Day played VFL the next day, so he was available.
Part of me thinks that that's a little bit of smoke screening, just in that they're trying to find a way of getting O into form, and I think will probably have Day in the team over Fort, which is no slight to Fort and no disservice to what he's done throughout the season. But can you imagine if Oscar didn't play in a premiership this year, being fit? And I think that, imagine if it was Sam Day and Fort in the grand final. That would be very heartbreaking for the Big O. So
big time.
But we largely got things right on selection, which I think was good.
I mean, obviously, the big thing is that the sub being Sammy Marshall, I think we were all pretty surprised when that was announced, and surprised and pretty disappointed when that sub wasn't activated during the third, early in the third, because anyone could have seen that Bruce needed to be subbed out. He was having no impact on the game. When he did get the ball, he used it really well. He's not a 4-quarter player. We know this. He's the perfect sub, and he's the perfect starting sub, and then to come on and impact. Once the game's already got a bit of momentum, a bit of flow, to come in and just sort of assert himself. But, we'll have a chat about Sammy Marshall and his impact on the game later. But, disappointed for the boy again, because he only gets 7 minutes of game time. But at least he's playing in a win this time. He doesn't come on when we're getting flogged by Collingwood.
That is a good point. But I think, Occam's razor was right there. You've got your prime sub and a guy that you will be part of the club's future, and you've got an opportunity to give him substantial game time in a role that he's familiar with kind of enough people around him to provide kind of support. It was disappointing, but the first quarter was wet and cagey and stoppage and largely we absolutely dominated it for the first sort of 15-20 minutes, and then in terms of territory, and the Doggies got a bit of territory at the end of the quarter, which largely didn't result in anything because they got a couple of goals against the run of play. Your mate,
Riley West.
Yes, he was good.
He
was playing like a hungry footballer.
He's last season and this year he's really come along and found himself a good spot in that forward line for the Dogs as not quite a small forward, but a stronger bodied medium type forward. And his old man was one of my favourite all time players, so I am a bit biased towards Riley West. It took him a while to get a red hot crack at getting in that starting lineup, but he is he's been one of their better forwards this year.
He's got a bit of Toby Green to him in terms of the way that he can aerially his ground level and his sort of sliminess, I guess, in a good way, not like a slug way, in like a being able to kind of get in. And there were some times where he sort of just kept his feet and the players around him fell down and he had a walk-in goal. So good for him. That's all I'll say about him. But you do tend to talk about certain players and then they tend to play relatively all right, whether it's positive or negative. So because we've had a couple of negatives where the fellow with the plait or braid or whatever from Hawthorn, we had old mate ACL from Essendon. This one, I'm sure you probably bigged up like Ben Keys before he played. Just shut up.
Yeah, okay. I won't mention any
you're not
players.
allowed to talk about other players unless they're on the shelf. So
I'll talk about Tuke Miller later.
talk about Tuke Miller. Talk about Rioli. Whatever.
A really good game. I'm really pleased that we could bring that same pressure and intent that we did last week against the Blues. That seemed to come back in our forward half game, especially as well. The tackles inside 50, we hit another 20 odd. That third quarter though is when, what do we get? Record number since 2006 of forward half turnovers, and just could not make it count on the scoreboard. Like really, just could not make it count on the scoreboard. And as teams tend to do against us, Dogs kicked amazingly accurate. They got a lot of goals from, like inside 30 meters out, relatively directly in front. Like, as you said, Riley West, a lot of his goals were, 20 meters directly in front, walk-in goals. That free kick to Norton was, basically right in front of the goals as well. So their accuracy and the fact that we just kept letting them back in, kept them in it. But I know what you mean. We were by far the better team, and we finished with 26 scoring shots. But as Fags mentioned, there was kicks that didn't make the distance out on the full, 34 scoring shots. But to keep the Dogs to 16 is really good because we know how high powered they are.
I'm assuming you listened to him on SEN, Fags, on the Crunch or whatever the hell that kind of
Crunch,
conglomerate.
Yeah, no, I've listened a bit to it. I've seen a couple of excerpts, but yeah, he's spread the same message.
He's fairly kind of pragmatic about it, I think. But the second and third quarter we played really good football. I suppose we can talk about a certain other thing another time. But it was good when you've got the Ashcroft duo. We'll just kick 5 goals. I mean, 4 goals during the play. Levi was a bit robbed of one. There was sort of one end, one the other end with the throw from Oscar, which in modern football, probably a lot of people get away with those. Scott Pendlebury had a massive one of those in the last minute today, the old shovel. And then to have Froggy Lester get pinned for holding the ball, having to leapfrog. So you've ruined that by not letting the frog leap over a player, which kind of should be on like a life bingo card sort of situation. And then ping him. I got to say that the umpire that kind of talked to him and Dunkley in that moment, looks terrifying. He looks crusty as all hell. But just the way that he talks to the players is so like vaguely disrespectful. It's just like, no. It's like, can you use full sentences and be like a bit less of an asshole?
I think as an umpire, you do have to be a little bit sort of callous, because if you give players an inch, they'll take a mile. And I think he was obviously robbed. He had to jump a player, and the rule of like, well, he made an attempt. He made an attempt, and we've seen that not paid before. Like, clearly missed his boot, and I'm happy for it to be being paid holding the ball, but you've got to pay it all the time when players miss their shoe. And Levi got away with one a little bit later as well with the drop kick. But
yeah, well, the drop kick used to be a perfectly valid disposal back in the day. It was the preferred disposal. So is there anything wrong with that? Technically, yes. I do want to make mention, because I watched on KO, so I had I thought it was one of Waitley's better nights. Gary Lyon is so annoying, obviously. But that first free kick where Bontempelli goes in to grab the ball, slides in and takes someone out with his feet. Yep. And they're saying, but he gets to the ball. It's like, that is the exact situation why sliding and contact below the knees exists. Not for when you slide in with your shoulders, but it's to stop leg breakers like you get in soccer, where people go in with their studs and they like break ankles. It's the definition of why that rule exists. You look at a lot of the rules and historically why they have come into the game. It's not because the AFL's like screwing with the system. Like pushing the backs came in because players were going to kick the ball, getting pushed in the back and were blowing out hamstrings, not because people were pushing people out of marking contests and stuff, or even driving through them in tackles. It was to stop soft tissue injuries in, like, I think the 80s. 70s or 80s, the players had a big overhaul with it. And it's the same thing with the sliding. The sliding was brought in to protect players from legs, not to stop people going from the ball and, front on low, whatever, contacting. So that's a mini rant, but I think rules changes generally should be player driven, not state of the game driven, if that makes sense. But we live in a different world now. So if Darcy Moore wants to do something about it, maybe he should do that.
Thought so, mate. Hey, something I sort of inadvertently brought to the show last week, and that I said, hey, maybe we should do this each and every week. It's sort of a top 3 moments, and it could be absolutely anything. You can check out mine from last week at our socials if you just search for BL Fancast. So for me this week, my 3 moments that I really enjoyed, and could be absolutely anything. One, obviously, Swanee and his wife in the song and the Gatorade shower at the end. Brilliant. 2, and you sort of half mentioned this as well, that lead up to that Levi goal that was disallowed because of the throw. But that passage of play that got there had everything in it. It had, I think, a screamer attempt by Kai. It had like the double pan from Charlie. It had an underground handball. And I think maybe an over the head as well, before it eventually got through to the goal square. And by the time it actually got to Levi, I was like, how the hell have we pulled that out of our ring? And it eventually got called back. But that was it had absolutely everything that, minute lead in. And then 3 was Sammy Marshall. He only had the 5 touches, but what he did with them, all class. Absolutely. I think we could all see that. He was part of that chain that got that last Will Ashcroft goal with the hands under pressure to Charlie that got the kick out. He was really, really good, and I really hope he holds his spot and gets a full game next week.
Beautiful. It's pretty good.
It's going to be difficult because Zach Bailey will be coming back.
Do I get to do my 3, or are you just going to keep talking?
Yeah. I
thought you moved on.
I was just adding on to that. I did read today Zach Bailey had to fly home because his mum had a stroke. So, horrible news, first of all. And on the very odd chance that anyone from the Bailey family is listening to this, like, obviously thoughts and feelings and everything goes out to those guys, because that would be a really terrifying time. So hopefully, fingers crossed it all works out. And, if it's not next week, Zach Bailey comes back into that team over the next month or so or whatever. Family's got to come first in that respect. But, hopefully Sammy holds his spot.
Yeah, by all accounts, I think Bailey should be back. I think he's back in Brisbane already, according to Fakes. So
yeah, okay.
That's good. My 3. So I actually hadn't thought about this, and I've sort of vaguely come up with them on the spot. So first, I've got Hipwood's little paddle in the lead up to the Berry goal was so crucial. The first Berry goal. I have when they got someone holding the ball in the deep 50 in the fourth quarter. It was a conglomerate of Gardner, Lester, and Wilmot, and they were celebrating like no one's business, which is, I love seeing defenders celebrate defending.
Yep.
Throwbacks of the Zorko spoil against Gold Coast. And number 3 for me is Ryan Lester getting a post-game interview on Channel 7 for the first time in 15 years.
How good.
He looked like a frog out of water. He didn't really know what was going on, but that's all good. So, credit to 7 for that.
He had a great spoil against Norton as well in the
Montepelli.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, in that pocket there, that was brilliant. And we'll obviously have a chat about Froggy when we get to our votes. I would imagine one of the great games for him after a pretty quiet couple of months. So he did say, he's had the tough job the last couple of weeks. He's had Jeremy Cameron, he had Charlie Curnow. He was another name he threw out there as well, Georgiadis. So it was good that that Harris got the big dog in Sam Darcy, and the way Froggy played that, last line in defense role, the organizer, perfectly, absolutely perfectly. Really, really big from him.
Well, it's essentially like having another captain there, because the two of them can do it, and that was the benefit and what was with coming in down Norton as that kind of the defensive end for Noah, in the sense that we kind of had already covered him throughout the season with Fletcher. So It was really good, and it was kind of Froggy playing his own game for the first time in a while. Because I think it might have been in the lead up to when Payne got injured. We might have been playing quite a few teams with 3 talls. So it could have been the case that he was sort of doing lockdown stuff, and this enabled them to kind of impact and choose which contests he wanted to go to and how to affect them and stuff. It's amazing watching some teams that are a bit lower down on the ladder or who have not quite as good a defensive units as ours, watching their guys come off man to impact and not impacting. And our defensive unit is just generally so good. You're never going to keep teams super scoreless all of the time, particularly when they're kicking at an absurd percentage. But they do a good job. They do a really good job. So
yeah, and considering the interruptions that back six has had, and there's still potentially more on the way in the lead up to finals. Coleman had a second straight game. Duday's played again. I still think they're not going to be back in the team next week or anything, but there are definitely considerations that we need to think about moving forward. And once we come up against teams with a better small forward brigade as well, how does that affect things? Collingwood's got a couple, Bo McCreary, Lockie Schultz. They've got a couple
McCreary
as well.
had a game today. He had like 16 tackles.
Yeah.
Sorry, they were brutal tackles. He was on 15 when I checked, maybe midway fourth quarter. My microphone is being stupid, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, let's just cut that shit out about Bo McCreary.
Very similar to maybe the ruck situation. It might be a bit of horses for courses, depending on who we come up against, in their small forward brigade. I don't think, Sydney hasn't... when we come up against Hawthorn, it's going to be an issue in that last round. So it's going to be a wait and see, but we know Fletcher is up to the task as well. So he was another one that had a great game. Fletcher was amazing.
Yeah. Did we have Starcevic back for the Hawthorn game, or did he come back the week later? I think he came back the week later against GWS.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm still firmly of the belief that our backline group is the right kind of combination of pieces where, if anyone listening, it's like, yes, last season we had both Starcevic and Answorth in the team as sort of 2 lockdown-ish players, which isn't to say they're not expansive in their own ways. But when Starcevic went out, we brought Fletcher back. So, Fletcher is the replacement for Answorth now. It is sort of the way that it goes. And I think at this point in time, like Kadeen Coleman doesn't really get into the team because Zorko does the job that Kadeen Coleman should be doing, and Zorko should not be not in the team. So that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, it will come down to if an injury happens to either him or perhaps Darcy Wilmot, then it's rush him back in. But he needs to put together a body of work in the VFL.
Yeah, well, any of the defensive, I'd say any of the kind of half-back runner types, you're looking at Wilmot, Fletcher, Zorko, that would be where Kadeen Coleman comes into the team. But you shouldn't be dropping any of those players on potential, because I still think that our list has got a lot of staying power, and it's not this season or bust for winning premierships. Definitely not. And guys like Coleman and Duday as well, and even you could throw in Marshall and Gallup. These guys, I think, and we'll talk more about Marshall. We've said that now like 5 times, but there will be plans in place to get these guys in the team in a longer term sense. It's not, we're a premiership team that are sitting, 2 points off top now, who've basically only just gotten out of second gear. Yeah, it's not an easy team to get into. And it's good. Brooksy, we watched football through the 2011s through to, I'm going to even include Fagan's first year in 2017, where there were NEFL and VFL standard players playing AFL football because we didn't have the players. So I don't have a problem with AFL standard players playing twos, because that's a luxury we're not always afforded, and it's based on development, recruitment, culture, all sorts of that sort of shit that has given us this privileged position to be able to have guys and I know that he didn't play, like guys like Dev Rob, guys like Duday, Coleman, Day, like guys in the VFL team that would play AFL football.
Yeah.
Because the other way around is horrible.
Yes.
Ryan Harwood, no. No, not sorry, Ryan Harwood, if you listen, but you were quite a good VFL player, but yeah, and it doesn't start and end with him. But
no, yeah, it's a good problem to have, as you said. You know, I mean, look at Jackson Pryor could barely get a game for us, and his starting lineup, I mean, anyone's starting lineup for Essendon at the moment, but even when they had a relatively healthy squad, he was in that team each and every week, and I'm sure when Dev Rob goes probably to West Coast at the end of the year, he'll light it up for those guys as well and help out Harley Reid and stuff like that. So Jimmy Tunstall probably similar. Speaking of contracts, and you mentioned just before Starcevic, still yet to sign a deal. Kalachi as well. It was reported that North were having a good look, and that probably one of the sticking points is that he might be looking at playing further up the ground and getting some midfield minutes. And you can see with the way Stars plays, and very similar to Cam Rayner, where his first thought is to take on a tackle, break it, and then use the ball from there. You can see why. And you know, he was recruited as a midfielder, and early on we played him, you know, sort of floating around the midfield without necessarily getting inside mid-minutes. I can see why that would be a draw card for someone like Stas. So we might have to think about that. He may not be on our list next year, which is pretty upsetting. But I guess that's the reality of, as you said, being a premiership team sitting second on the ladder and bringing in a free agent of Oscar who's going to take up some cash, and potentially another ruckman as well, like Sam Draper.
Yeah, the Starcevic one, if it's that I want to play the game in my way sort of thing, I've won a premiership as a, you know, I thought he was best on ground in the grand final when it mattered, is what I guess. And that first quarter, he was unflappable. You can understand it, but I don't know. It's just sort of like, just shut up and play as a lockdown defender and be the best at it. Like, you know, win another flag, you're in that like all-time Lions backline.
Yeah,
I don't care. I'm sorry.
I can't remember when I did it. I posted at our socials. I posted a
you
a
put
combined
him in as a potential.
Yeah, I said I put him in his back pocket, and I said by the time his career finishes, I think that spot will be his. It was largely speculative at the point, but he's certainly made his case.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you see things thrown around where discussions are made with, who in your current playing list would be all timers in your like all time best 22s, and one of the big disagreeing points that we had was basically the non-premiership versus the premiership players. And you're looking at our current list and going, well, who would be in the all-time, best 22 of the Lions? And you're going, well, very, very potentially Harris Andrews, Zorko, Neil, McCluggage, and Charlie Cameron you could all feasibly put them in there. Starcevic as well, if
McCluggage is going to be difficult.
Yeah, but don't forget that McCluggage can play as a wing. And when you look at the premiership teams and go, okay, so, and this was a point of discussion that I had with some individuals about it, where it's like, is McCluggage a better player than Tim Notting? I think so. Is he a better player than Martin Pike? Possibly. Is he a better player than Sean Hart? Possibly. I would have him ahead of those three guys as a wingman.
I would probably have Lappin on one wing and McCluggage on the other, with putting little thought into it off the dome here.
Because it's funny because people look at premierships and look at the premiership sides in 01, 02, and 3, but there are some players in there that were role players. Like I love Robert Copeland, but he's not in my all-time 22.
Yes.
He played in 2 premierships. Like Richard Hadley won a premiership and he played about 5 games. So it's like, just because, we've talked about Shattuck, Des Headland, it's like just because they were in that team doesn't mean that the best players from our current team are not in there ahead of them. And just quietly, McCluggage, 200 games, third fastest player in history to get there.
Yeah, I knew it was quick. I was like, God, that's come around quick. But then when I saw that flash up saying he's the third fastest to do it, I thought, yeah, that is bloody quick.
Like, McCluggage is if not an all-timer already, would be an...
Well, Mitch Robinson said he's going to be the next player to play 400.
It very well could be. Because, watching the Fremantle-Collingwood, I know O'Meara's had... Jaeger O'Meara hasn't played 200 games. I believe they said he'll play his 200th game in finals. Now, that guy, in my mind, has been around forever.
Yeah, he was one of the Gold Coast's early picks, I think. He wasn't obviously like an inaugural son, but I think maybe 2013, 2014, perhaps.
And he's played three different clubs, and he's been around the block, and it's like, he's played fewer games than Huey, which is
2013. Yeah.
So McCluggage is doing a good job.
Also,
obviously he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
So anyway, we kind of went off the boil there a little bit, just the way that I do. But I think I want Starcevic to stay, obviously.
Yeah, me too, and Kalachi as well. Big time. I thought you could tell early on he had the role on Bailey Dale. Bailey Dale ended up having a pretty good game for the Dogs. But you could tell early on that Kalachi was sort of responsible for him. I did like the way the Dogs, in the back half, they sent Garcia to Zorko to try and, nullify his impact. And of course, Kalachi's our one that we dropped behind the ball. And it was pointed out, I think that the round so far, I think on the AFL website, they evened up the numbers and they sent Fraser with Kalachi to keep him accountable in the back six. And that sort of led to that Riley West mark to get them within 4 points with 90 seconds left. So, it's not like they didn't, pull a few levers to try and get the thing done. But, as you said, all in all, we were the much better team across the day. And I was really pleased that we were able to bring that forward half game, the tackling pressure and intensity, especially in the inside 50, because I thought there was every chance that, it was going to be the focus after the Port game and we'd do it for a week and do it well, and then it would sort of, become less important again, drop down the priority list, and we'd go back to... I didn't think we were going to go back down to a 30 tackle game like we have a couple of times, but I didn't think it was going to be so prevalent as it was again. But it was good to see that it did stick around, and I really hope that it is a big feature of our game from now on. However far we make it into September. That, and there's been a lot of talk about it, the way we've moved the ball, the shift, the game speed. And did you catch Hoyne across the week? Yeah. I did
watch Hoyne, funnily enough.
The biggest change on the record of, speed of ball movement. No one's, and it's very similar to last year, the dancing on thin ice mantra of, we've got to get this ball going quick through the middle, attacking. It just, and I think that change will put us in better stead against teams like Collingwood, because they are obviously amazingly set up defensively. Adelaide as well. It's just whether on the turnover, if we can get our defense set up, properly to counteract it if it starts coming back. And that's been the Bulldogs' problem, is that they're so all-out attack that when the ball gets turned over, they're left exposed defensively, and that's been a big critique of them. They tried to finally introduce a third tall defender, but with a 6-day turnaround, didn't really make that much difference in the end. And O'Donnell went out with that ankle in the last quarter anyway, so sort of didn't make too much of a difference. But we can get left exposed.
I think a big point of difference between, if you look at even, say, the Dogs and the way that they play, better one-on-one players than they do. And we've got largely a very functional one-on-one defensive group. Even I've said it for weeks now, like guys like Wilmot and Fletcher, they're contributing far more consistently on a defensive element, without kind of curtailing that willingness to take the game on and that sort of a thing, which I think is really good, and it shows really good coaching. Did you watch, speaking of Hoyne, did you watch Jumpin' Jeff White talk about our pressure game against Carlton?
I did, yes.
Where
And if he said balance once, he said it a million times.
He said what? Sorry?
Balance.
Yeah, balance. And it's almost like the forward pressure game is they're allowing each other to be accountable for their own element and like trigger for the system to go, where one goes, which then puts the other one, and they'll hold and then they'll go and then they'll hold and then they'll go, to kind of, it's almost like they're trying to bait them into giving the ball to like the biggest dingus there. Unfortunately, that kind of happened to us the other way around. Sorry, Gardner. But in that moment, you were the biggest dingus there. Now, should we do some votes and then talk about Marshall, or should we just...
Yeah, let's do some votes because we've prattled on long enough. So let's get to some votes for hoponbrewerytours.com.au. Book yourself a half or a full day tour across Brisbane or the Gold Coast with Hop On Brewery Tours. Tough week for votes this week because there's a lot of players we want to try and get in. And up until he kicked his third goal, I had Will Ashcroft on 2 votes, but that third goal, the sealer, cemented it for me that he was getting the 3. Froggy Lester, amazingly unlucky not to get the 3, so he gets my 2. And the 1 was very difficult because there's so many players that deserved it, but I'm going to throw it to Levi because I don't think I've given him votes this year, and I thought that was easily his best game for the club. It looks like the pennies dropped, and there's been a lot of chat of Levi of, you know, he wants to be an inside mid, he's an inside mid, but he's got to work his way in, he's got to learn this role, so by the time that he is an inside mid, he can fall back on this, and it looks like the pennies dropped, and he's finally embraced it and is willing to give himself to the team a little bit more. His goal square to goal square running has just improved out of sight, and like I said, easily his best game, and finished off with a couple of goals.
Well, in his draft year, I heard that his tank was significantly like one of his big strengths, more so than Will. So I suppose you're right in that it's his willingness to run rather than his ability to run, which is there. It's going to be really... I wanted to do 6 different players, but you took the 2 best on ground people as 3 and 2, you dingus. So, yeah, cool. So you really stitched me up here. So I guess I will go Frog 3, and I will go Ashcroft W2, and I'm going Jared Berry 1 because that guy was not letting anyone stop his mate having a win for his 200th game. It just wasn't happening. He scored 2 crucial goals. We know how much I love a Jared Berry goal, but he was just like, nah, not having enough. We're winning this game, and I think that willingness to just, you know, it wasn't putting the team on your back so much so as it was just going like giving them a little push with a cattle prod, going like, hey, come on. Like, I'm Jared Berry and I'm kicking multiple goals. Like, give us some.
Josh Dunkley, extremely stiff not to get a single vote out of the game as well.
Do we want to talk about the people that were stiff to miss out? Because there are heaps of them. Fletcher.
Fletcher, yeah.
Harris Andrews. I thought Harris Andrews was really good, and I don't care that Gigantor got multiple free kicks up the ground. If he's getting free kicks up the ground, don't care. Give them away there. Plus, they were also mega soft. So,
yeah, it didn't take much for Sam Darcy to get a free kick on the centre wing or in the middle of the ground. But, you know, we were talking about it off air. Very similar to the way Charlie Curnow got basically all of his possessions up the ground last week. Sam Darcy, you know, fine, get a free kick in the middle of the ground. But as soon as that happened, Harris Andrews, like, you take the mark, I'm booking it down the back to help out the D50. So, you know, Sam Darcy, a lot of positives up the ground. When it came to inside 50s, he finished with 1 goal. So, yeah, that is a win. That's a big win.
Absolutely. If they were going to say in Gather Round that Darcy he kicked 2 in Gather Round and they were calling it a break even between the two of them.
Well, he kicked 2-2 or 2-3 or something. So,
yeah. But by definition, kicking 1, that's a win to Harris. I don't care metric you look at. So, but yeah, Dunkley had a 15 tackle game. Yeah.
Yeah, silly.
It's so consistently that high. Except that one game against GWS, but let's not talk about that.
I thought the midfield
Fletcher
battle...
might be Fletcher might be one of, everyone talks about Ashcroft and Lachie Neale being clean. Fletcher might be sneaky up there in terms of it's not so much,
especially by foot.
Yeah, but it's more picking up the ball, not in amongst like a super contested situation, but it is ground ball, and it's funnily enough, the ground ball in the defensive 50 has been an issue for us historically. And I think having Zorko, who's like the size of like small, and Fletcher, it kind of has given a little bit of extra ground ball help. So some of Zorko's kicking was amazing. Can you please explain me this?
Why he can kick anywhere except inside 50?
Yeah, he can hit a sixpence at 80 yards in the corridor, but he can't hit a vague human in the 50 from like 30. It's like,
it is the toughest kick in footy.
Yeah, but it's to me, it seems like he is very well drilled at what he has to do across half back. He knows where he needs to put the ball, almost like it's a closed skill. If you forgive me for going like grade 10 PE here, it's a closed skill almost for him, where he's like, I'm in this vague area. I got to kick it this far. I know how hard to do it. Maybe that one to Charlie Cameron in the first quarter was like perfection. But the inside 50s, I don't understand. It hurts my head.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
So, but yeah, you tried to bait me by saying, I might get my wish. It's not my wish to have Zorko, not my wish.
Quickly, a bit more contract chat while we were chatting about Jasper Fletcher. Looks like he's set to sign on until 2030, so that's absolutely brilliant. 4 years for him. I think Will is in early talks to extend as well, which is great. But
do you
the midfield battle...
Do you think Fletcher could be a future captain?
Yeah, definitely.
Because, it's not unforeseeable that the midfield mix could be ludicrous.
Well, yeah.
You throw Annabelle and Marshall in there, Levi, Wash, McCluggage, and Dunkley's younger than McCluggage or something insane like that. They were the same age.
Yeah, the future's definitely in good stead. That I thought the midfield battle on the weekend was really, really good without any particular. Like there were moments where Dunkley would go to someone and then Libba would run with Hugh. I thought they put a little bit more attention into Hugh than others. Neil and Bont were running together at various points as well. We tried to make life hard for Ed Richards at points as well. I thought it just like the general midfield battle was a fun one to watch.
I said last week that it could very well a nil-all draw. The midfield battle could be that with all of the potential nullifying. It turned out it was kind of like a 10-all draw. Like everyone was sort of just having fun doing stuff. So, and you'd rather watch a 10-all draw than a 0-all draw.
Big time.
Unless you're like Jose Mourinho in 2005. If anyone understands that reference, hit me up.
There you go. Let's have a quick chat about the twos as well. The Footscray absolutely just blew them out in the first quarter, and it was just chasing tail from then on. Made a bit of a charge in the last quarter, but it was too little too late by that stage. So, ended up 26 points, which is pretty respectable considering that Footscray literally just got out. It was going to be a high-scoring game for a while. 8-goal first quarter and then another 5 to them. And slowly but surely just a 4-goal last half. But one person I do want to talk about, and I'm going to be on this guy, so get used to me talking about him. I've posted about him on our socials a little bit, is Ty Prindable. Got his first game for us in the VFL. Ended up with 20 touches, 6 tackles, and 6 clearances as well. So he is another academy prospect. Everyone's talking about Dan Annable. This kid, personally, I would take him before Annable because Annable's more your accumulator. And I think for the midfield mix moving forward, we've already got your Lachie Neale type in Washy. I think Ty offers a little bit more on the outside as well. He's more your Pendlebury type, can create space, uses the ball fairly well, left footer as well. He's already had interviews with Melbourne, Collingwood, Freo, West Coast, and Carlton, I think, and of course the Lions. One to watch, Ty Prindle. He's really come along in the last couple of years, and I really hope we end up with him on our list because I think he'll complement that future midfield we've spoken about a lot more than maybe a Dan Annable. But Dan Annable's a potential top 5 pick in a draft that's not that great this year. I would hate for Ty Prindle to slip through the cracks if we can't get him.
You're kind of missing the madness, hilariosity of having Prindle, Annabelle, Will, and Levi, all of the L's.
Yeah.
McCluggage. Like, let a man do their alliteration and just get all of them. Because I feel like surely there would be a bit of license with that where, let's say you're a developing midfielder and you come to a team like the Lions, you're going to get quite good by training and playing with the players that are there. Not necessarily like playing AFL games, but it could be good to kind of create draft capital in the future. It's sort of almost like a weird human farming technique. I don't know.
Jeez.
Yes, but okay. Printable is, and now we'll keep an eye out for him. I have a question.
Connor was really good, but sorry, quickly, Connor McKenna was really, really good on the weekend. Henry Smith, a couple of games back in the twos as well, back somewhere near his best, 25 hitouts and a goal. That midfield, and probably why Ty Prindable was was afforded such a good game is because both Jimmy Tunstall and Dev Robb were out with concussion and suspension, which opened up the opportunity for him, which was really, really good. Ty Gallop.
Just on that, I was going to ask about Ty Gallop. Did he play or did he just... Was he there, did 2 tackles and then...
Yeah, I don't know. Sam Day was quiet. It wasn't... The Footscray back 6 were really... The Footscray were really good. The back 6 especially, really good. But it was sort of like... Jack Manley had a great game. 2 goals, 1 who's a guy that comes into the VFL every now and then. McLaughlin played pretty well. A little bit wasteful in front of goal. Fergus McFadgen again good. And Kitty Coleman got through the game. A couple of tackles, 15 touches. So, yeah, we've spoken about him. He's still a while off. Brandon Ryan is putting together... I said it last week or the week before. And I'm not sold on Brandon Ryan whatsoever. But he's putting together some good footy. So, maybe we'll offer him a rookie contract or something. I don't know. And
sign him up to that human farm.
Luke Beacon, who from all accounts was going to make some sort of debut on Friday, didn't happen in the end. Another great game for him. So he's put together like 2.5 really, really good months, Luke Beacon. So I hope he can get a game at some point, but it probably means that he'll be coming in for someone that's...
Yeah, see, my thoughts are more along the lines of because I don't want one of the other players to not be playing, and I'd rather not have injuries, have minimal injuries or at all injuries. I'm not like you. I'm not a absolute sycophant for this sort of thing. So we've had 3 debutants this year? Gallop, Marshall, McLaughlin.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for a reigning premier.
Yeah, true.
I mean, we're not fucking Essendon over here with 13.
Well, it was this time last year where we were absolutely struggling for a key defender. So, all in all, things
as it were.
Yeah, not all that bad. So now we're trying to figure out if we can get Kitty Coleman or Tom Doedee back into this team. So Tom Doedee was fine. Him and Kitty were fine. They need to put together at least a month of like solid performance before they're considered. So,
see, I think they need to put together solid recovery, not so much performance, because I think the performance will be
both.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, it's neither. So they're doing okay without going, oh yeah, that's an AFL level player again. Like that's why we got you. That's why we're trying to rush you back into the team. At the moment, they're doing their job, and it probably wasn't the best day to to try and showcase your talents when you're getting smacked by the Footscray. But they've got a Q clash of their own next week as well, which is happening. I'm not really sure the Saturday or the Sunday.
And Marshall didn't play in the VFL.
He didn't, so that's actually probably a good sign because it might mean he is backing up for another senior game.
Cool. Rip the Band-Aid off. Talk about him.
I'm so bummed. Like, yeah, I said it in the Discord. I've got really no reason to. I know a lot of people over the years have had issues with Fags, and we've defended him here on the show. If I've got one issue, is it's his use of the sub. Is he doesn't pull the trigger early enough when it probably needs to be, and it didn't need to be done on Friday. But like Stevie Wonder could have seen that Bruce needed to be subbed off, and that Sammy Marshall could come in.
You stole that one from me. I love it. That's like early podcast episode. My nonsense. Yeah, I thought for all money they were just going to try and strangle the hell out of Tim English and just throw Marshall on for a ruck at 3/4 time. Which, I mean, Ford because they were resting forward. They were just in the ruck, resting forward, and they were just rotating like that. Then I checked and he had some time off the ground, so paid pittance to that. One thing I think is great with Marshall is, for someone who's played about 7 minutes of football, immediately on the pace of the game. And someone pointed out, it could be because you're coming into a game that's, been high pressure and it's at the end of the game. But how often do you see people come on and they're not on the pace of the game and they don't know the pressure of the game? And it was a high pressure game against the Bulldogs. Bulldogs tackled pretty bloody hard as well. I think they ended up winning the tackle count. And for him to look as kind of smooth as he was really good. Made good decisions. He showed well for the ball. Like the Gardner one, he gave hands to Gardner. Gardner should have given it back to him, and then he's off up out of halfback. Cost a goal, which is disappointing. But it sucked that he wasn't afforded the ability to play a game properly because we know what Reville gives you, and we like Reville. He's like an inject. It's weird. It's like his AFL career is sort of a microcosm of itself, in that when he came into the team, he was that injection of energy we needed at that time. And it was for like 2 weeks that it was like, wow, look at this guy. He's like added in all of this energy and run, and like he's brought the crowd into it. He's brought good ball use when we were needing it. Whereas it's like now is the case where we need that at certain times in games, which is where I think he's the perfect sub, because he's tidy with the ball. He doesn't get many touches, and there's always one like chef's kiss kick that he does where he'll just drop it and you go, yep, cool. But the output is the same whether he plays a quarter or he plays a game. It's, in my opinion, like they're very similar. It might be 11 touches versus 8. But he comes in like a mad dog, and I think it was a missed opportunity, and it's one where I think you and I we will defend the coach and the list with our lives largely, but this is one where it's just a bit of a miss.
Yeah, I really do hope that considering the fact that Sam didn't play VFL, it means he's going to get another run in it, and I suppose it will largely depend on Zach Bailey's availability and whatever else happens across the week. But, we'll get an extra day's prep than the Suns, which is good, and they've got to travel back. So, yeah, whatever.
2 days
I hope he gets into the cracker. Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah, 2 days prep, yeah. So, and they've got a couple of injuries they've got to deal with. So, yeah, we'll have a chat about that very shortly. Right now, let's get into tipping, because the round has just wrapped up here on a Sunday night. What did I end up with?
You went with me. You went with me on Melbourne and West Coast.
I did.
I thought I had thrown it all away.
You know what's funny though is because I tipped Melbourne, but then maybe 20 minutes before the game, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to chuck $30 on Carlton, responsibly, of course, because I think they'll win. And I did that, but forgot to change my tip. So financially better off for it, but not for my tip.
Hold on.
And
I love this. You're like, hey, we're going to do this buy me a coffee thing. Can you throw us some shrapnel so I can put $30 on Carlton? Meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, I need food in the fridge. And you're putting money on Carlton.
Hey,
that
$30 turned into like 75. So there you go. That's a few more coffees. And I thought, West Coast, after they played pretty well against Port last week and back at home, I thought, you know what, they should take confidence from that and back it up against Richmond, but nope.
I watched a bit of that game. I don't know why, but as far as games go, that had, I want to say, the lowest star factor of any AFL game I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like think of the players that are like name players. Harley Reid, second-year player. Taranto, the backbreaker. Bloston, Tim Kelly. Like, get out of here. Like, Nan Curvis. Yeah. Sorry, these are not marquee players. It was an awful game. And I like some of the young Richmond guys. I think they're good. But holy moly.
Better than that game last week against Essendon, which was the worst game of footy anyone's ever seen.
Yeah, but as I said, I only saw the first quarter, and the first quarter was objectively quite good. So one thing I found funny is that I tipped the Giants by 99, and I would have been better off tipping them by 1.
What's going on there? That's upsetting.
What, me tipping them by 99?
No, it's upsetting that they didn't really have their way with Essendon.
It was a poor performance. Awful. Yeah. That's yeah. But it is funny that you tipped them by 100. Better off tipping a 1-point game in terms of margin. But we ended up on the same number. I think a win for Freo was a win for football. Excellent. We haven't mentioned this. I'm ahead of you now.
Yeah. Well, a quick shout out to ZC, team name Joe Danaher is 1 tip clear on top. They tipped 8 this week. The margin 6. A lot of people 6s, a few 7s, a couple of 5s. Right, where are you sitting at the moment? There you are, sitting at number 50.
I'm bang on 50, and
I'm down at 55.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about anything else other than beating you is the important thing. And having tipped so stupidly for the first 6 rounds, I feel like I'm in a good place.
Well, we're both a fair way off the lead here, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's because we get each other to do dumb things. Like, you were bolted on to tip Richmond and Carlton last week, and you didn't because I said that I wasn't going to. So we're bad for each other, and it's okay. Oh, we got to do the next round. Cool.
Yes, let's have a look. Thursday at the Loud House, Hawks and Carlton, Hawthorn.
What the hell's the Loud House?
MCG. DDF fans will know. 24 points for me. 4 goals. Seems about right.
I'm just trying to get back into the app. Richmond by...
Richmond.
Yeah, I saw Hawthorn. I saw red. I did a Kelly Underwood there. Let's not talk too much about it. Dogs are going to win by 7,000 points.
Yep. Giants and the Swans. That'll be closer than I think a lot of people are thinking, but the Giants are playing really good footy at the moment. They're playing good footy at the right time.
Giants are doing a bit of an us, which I don't love. Us from last year.
Adelaide as well. Adelaide.
Yeah, but I'm talking. I don't think Giants will finish top 4, but I think that they'll be mega dangerous.
Q Clash 120. People's first. It's going to be a wet one. They're expecting a fair amount of rain, so I think that might actually work in our favour. Believe it or not. Took Miller obviously a huge out, and you were saying that Dan Rioli's twinged an ankle or something as well, so maybe
yeah, it didn't look good. He got stretched off. Like he went off, got it strapped up, came back on, then went down again, and then got stretched off in the mechanical cart.
Sure.
But
yeah, that would tell me he's probably not playing next week.
Mechanical cart. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Derby, Freo.
Yeah, it's it is the kind of the rivalry round, isn't it?
Yeah, because we've got the showdown as well, which, you know, if Port lose that could well be Kenny's last game.
I don't think so.
You might as well see it the last year. You might as well see it out.
I don't think that old mate will want to come in, but this bereft injury list they've got to what's the point? If you're a new coach, you're wanting to come in round one record. You don't want to give yourself the opportunity to be 0-5 in your career. That's just stupid. And then the heaven and hell game.
Yeah, this game is doing my head in Melbourne, St Kilda, and it's exactly where it belongs at 3:15 Sunday afternoon at Marvel Stadium, when no one can fucking think about it. I don't care who wins this game.
Saints and Demons, though, they really should be kind of promoting that game in an absolutely insane, over the top manner. I'm talking CGI angels and fire.
Jeez.
you know that I hate the modern game day experience, but this is one that no one cares about. No one's going to watch. Go all out. Pyrotechnics. Have, I don't know, 1 billion balloons come from the roof. Open the roof during the game. Oh, is it during the day? Roof during the game. Get a beam of light coming down onto I don't know. Does Jones still play for St Kilda with his bald head? Shine it off there. I think I've lost my mind, but
that's what a game of St Kilda Melbourne will do to you. It'll drive any man insane.
I don't think I'll be. I never say.
All right, let's wheel it. Let's wheel it.
Oh, do we have any questions?
We'll get to the questions.
Oh, wheel before questions.
Yeah, wheel before questions. Let's get the wheel done. And you can have a look at last week's wheel at our socials at BL Fancast. It was two of the most talented individuals we've had, Kitty Coleman and Jared Brennan, on the list.
So we're doing a Pink Floyd here. We're doing, you can't have your questions until you eat your wheel.
That's right.
Good to know. Who's up first?
Yeah, okay. Well, you get Harris Andrews
and
you're
having
holding,
said that
I
he
would
would make
imagine.
our all-time team, the answer is well and truly hold.
Yeah, and you'd be silly not to. So I better pull a Michael Voss here. Daniel Rich. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, this is. I mean, you've got his head above your head.
That's right. Yeah, Daniel Rich is just floating back there. Daniel Rich was
Technically speaking, you got Harris's head above your head too.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's one thing that Rich isn't in. So
I know. Daniel Rich was my favourite player for such a long time. I reckon between 2010 and 2016, just could not get enough of Daniel Rich. And that was absolutely peaked in 2012, where it was just an absolute orgy of Daniel Rich draining goals from 60, 70 metres. And I enjoyed literally nothing more than watching him just absolutely put on that left shoe and drain it, post height from wherever it is he felt like doing it. And I'm really sad that he didn't get at least the sub role in the 23 grand final, and that he went out the way he did.
Me too.
I'm really sad he went out the way that he did, and Father Time caught up with him. His skills were still there, and I'm glad he did get an All-Australian jacket in, was it 21, 22? 2020?
Oh, no, hold on. No, it was 22. It was the year before the year when it didn't go so well.
I'm really glad he got that to his name. He obviously won the Rising Star early on unanimously. And it was just a little bit too early. Came at the back end of, was instrumental in that Carlton elimination final. How many highlights of him with the short-haired Daniel Rich, which we didn't see for such a long time. Honestly, one of my favourite all-time Brisbane Lions players, and I'm one of the greats.
I think there was one moment, I'm going to bring up, used to do Ask the Team questions on the YouTube channel. What was that called? Locker Talk?
Yeah.
Something? One of my favourite moments is they were talking about and they were like, all right, we'll talk to Richie and ask him who the most famous person he's spoken to is or he's met. And he's like, or probably Hodgie. Tells you all you need to know about a person. That he does no frills.
Yeah.
I think his career got like a massive shot in the arm when Fagan came in, because he was sort of that almost midfielder, but he kind of lacked a little bit of kind of hardness at the ball at times. And I think going to halfback really it was a prototype for what we needed and what has now become what Coleman and what Zorko do now. Yeah. So it's the sort of thing where you go, oh shit, this could work because we've got someone with that level of skill, and now you know what you're looking for. You can even look before then and go, well, Josh Drummond was of that ilk too, of the the left foots, but he's a classic. To me, he doesn't make an all-time list for me, but he's not that far off it.
No, definitely not. Honourable mentions, maybe in the extended squad if it's a Sunday game or something like that.
Extended squad if we're doing an All-Australian squad of 40.
Yeah. And just honestly, one of the best kicks I've seen, for sure. And, obviously there's definitely bias involved in that. But
I don't think you'll have other players, other fans from other clubs all that much with you.
Yeah. I think that weird AFLX when that happened, and I think he was one of the first players picked because of his foot skills and because they knew he was going to be worth 20 points or whatever bullshit rules it was if he kicked a goal in a certain time period if he was wearing the Gatorade vest, and he did. Because, just honestly.
Was that when they were doing where they had their own little entrances? Cochin turn up on a scooter. Did he turn up in a tinny? Because that's what he should have done.
I think it was Alex Rance that rolled up in the electronic skateboard or whatever it was.
That's so lame.
Yeah. It was a time in the AFL landscape we shouldn't think too much about. But Daniel Rich, one of the greats.
So we haven't talked about
Harris Andrews.
I think when you have someone like Chris Fagan, who he's got, is it 3 daughters, 2 daughters?
I don't know. He's got a couple.
He's got daughters. For him to say, if I had a son, I wish he was Andrew.
Yeah.
Probably tells you all you need to know. Now, he came to the club at a time when matching academy picks was good. There's a bit of a conspiracy or a myth that he was only drafted at pick 61. Now, that's not really the case. He was taken by North Melbourne as a second-round pick, and at the time, you only had to match with your next available pick, which we had 61. So he basically got picked at 21 and went at whatever the hell we threw at him. So beautiful, love it. Those rules would be mega.
Oh my God.
Old mate St Kilda would have a seizure at that. And he kind of just played. From when he first came in, he just played forever, and you could tell he was going to be a captain. You could tell that he was a heart and soul player for the club. A little bit unfortunate, we when Beams wasn't the captain and Zorko took over, it was a year or two just too awkward for Harris to take that role. But Harris, I think, went into a vice captaincy at that point in time. Yeah. He would have benefited exponentially from Hodgie being there, but he's a colossus, and he is the standard that every key defender in the competition is held to and has been held to for 6 years. Where if someone has an All-Australian year, they're beating Harris Andrews without actually doing it, because I don't fucking care. He should be a 8-time All-Australian at this point in time. I don't care. I think that every defender, it's a bit of the Mel Michaels of it all, where, they might have had individually a better year. I don't even agree with that. But on the whole, he's been the highest performing key defender for 7 or 8 years since 2019. He's our club captain. I think at least he's our on-field captain, maybe not the personality that Lachie Neale is. And I think if the club had to choose a single captain, he would be it. And he's premiership captain.
He's a terrific bloke too. A terrific bloke. And I still remember the game where, because we drafted him as a forward. I I think it was against the Cats down at GMHBA. It was the first time we threw him down back. And I think we all saw that game and we were like, oh, I see. And he never moved from there. And unless something weird's happened where we had to throw him forward in a pure act of nothing but desperation. We
did that this year and it was not.
Yeah. Yeah, that was against the Pies.
Don't want that. Don't do that.
Yeah. Terrific.
No, it was against Melbourne this year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Let's not talk about that ever again. So don't do that, Harris. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you got the big fake saying, I wish I had a son like you, that's pretty high praise. So, yes, he's a defender. We've had some good key defenders because we've had Mal Michael, we've had Lepic, we had Sauce. We had the fella,
and we'll never know what Justin Clark was ever going to be. Imagine that backline now if Justin Clark was still in it.
Well, how old would Justin Clark be now?
He would have only been like maybe a couple years. He'd probably be around 30 now, I'd say.
Because he was slightly smaller, right? So he was sort of, what ifs, but it was he was exactly what we needed at the time. Not too dissimilar, Hipwood goes under, but we needed a key forward when Hipwood came around, and them both being from Brisbane was extremely important at that point in time too. So, 11 out of 10. Daniel Rich gets a 9 out of 10. And if it's a 9 out of 10, most people are seeing that movie or listening to that album or watching that show. If it's an 11 out of 10, then it ends up getting underrated and they miss out on 5 All-Australians.
That's true. I know I've got in my Google Drive a compilation of Daniel Rich kicking goals from outside 50. Because someone on Reddit was amazingly awesome enough to put that video together, and it's one of my all-time favorite videos. All right, let's get to some questions to wrap things up because we have gone on quite a bit this evening. It is all thanks to Chris Communications, chriscoms.co. If you've got a business, you need marketing, you've got a podcast, you need to get it out there. If you need help with your social media, Abby and the team at Chris Communications are the best at it, and they're giving you free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers at our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. A couple of questions, and they're all in our Discord, which you are always free to join. That link is at our website as well. Ben, what are your guys' thoughts on Tom Doedee or Kitty Coleman getting back into the team, and do you think they could add something different to lift us above other teams heading into finals? Now, we've already touched on this a little bit. Short answer is no. I think Kitty is definitely more likely than Tom Doedee at this point to make his way into the team. But still, short answer, no.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think our point of difference is already there. We're not looking for a point of difference. Funnily enough, other teams are trying to play our point of difference. So good luck to them. And I think if Coleman's coming in, it's at the expense of someone else. I know you can. The thing is, it could happen in one or two ways. It could happen if one of the backmen goes out, or it could happen in a way where maybe one of the small forwards goes out, and then you have a reshuffle where Levi might get put as a small forward, or Bailey. I'd probably rather not Bailey because I like what he's doing across the wing, and then you're pushing Fletcher up onto a wing and bringing in Coleman. So I don't necessarily buy into you can't play Zorko, Wilmot, and Coleman because we kind of did that. We've done it before where we've played.
You've been on record as saying you can't play Zorko and Coleman in the same team a number of times. And I agree with you, to be fair.
No, well, the thing is we kind of have because we did Wilmot, Coleman, and McKenna in 23.
Yeah, well, McKenna can't get a sniff this year.
Yeah, but bear with, McKenna is essentially the Zorko. Like, you've got the three people that are kind of dashing half-backs. So it's a positional thing. I don't want to be misquoted, but I think a fully fit Kadeem Coleman I have in the team ahead of Zorko. But at the moment, I'm not having Zorko. And there's another element with it where I think the only place I can see Zorko in this team is in the position he's in at the moment, because a lot of people are saying, bring Coleman back and swing Zorko forward. I don't think he's as good as the players we've got ahead of the ball. I think where he is on the field is his position, and it's his best position, and it's his only position at the moment. So, and he's very freaking good at it. So,
in line for another All-Australian, probably.
I think the All-Australian will be between him, Quaynor, and Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller. Dale will be there or thereabouts, but I think Zorko's better than Dale. I mean, Wanganeen-Miller has got all of the media hype that's been happening, and Quaynor was really good. Quaynor's really good.
He hasn't been consistent this year, but he's had a good month, Quaynor.
Yeah, at the right time. So
annoying. Tom's got a couple of questions here. One we've already sort of touched on. Did Fagan misfire by not pulling the sub earlier? Yes, he did. And the two ruck combo,
by choosing the wrong sub.
Yeah. And he said, is Zorko in career best form at age 36? I thought last year he was better. He's still been very good this year, but last year was better.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But it's also because teams have had another 12 months to figure out his impact and nullify it in some way.
I think he's had better games this year. I mean, he did have 500 kicks against Gold Coast. Yeah, he's had a good year. He's had a far better year than I thought he had.
And the two rucks, can the Twin Towers be maintained for the remainder of the season? No. I'll be upset if we're going into September with that.
I don't think we should. And I think there's probably an element of handover happening in this group of games where we've got an opportunity to do it, because it's not often that you have a vague luxury of being able to play someone like, Big O into form with the fallback that if that doesn't happen, you've got Fort there. So we're trying to kind of keep them both warm, or we're trying to warm up O whilst keeping Fort warm.
Yeah.
So that we can pull the trigger on O, in September or in the back end of the year. And I think Day will play as a important part ahead of the ball. So,
well, I think Day will come back next week, especially against the Suns, who knows that team better than anyone. So I think he'll come back next week for sure. The weather may play into that a little bit. It depends, because they've obviously got Witts and Ethan Reid as that backup ruck. So I don't know. I think Day will come back in next week.
But yeah, I think there was a little bit of the us going up against two rucks, I think, is a bit of a smokescreen for what we're trying to actually achieve.
Wouldn't be surprised. And the last one from Danielle, good friend of the show, always engaging. So thank you, Danielle. The NT team as the 20th license. This is a little bit sort of vague here. And what is she? So they're talking about the Lightning. They were putting forward the name of I'm not sure if it was the Northern Territory Lightning or the Darwin Lightning or whatever it was, but Lightning was thrown through. She also followed up, do you think one of the struggling clubs in Melbourne should be forced to move with it? Probably not. No, that's not going to happen. Well, I think the days of any sort of mergers or relocations are done.
I think if they're not happening, won't happen. Yeah. For anyone. Lightning is not a good one. I mean, we've got the Port Power. Yeah. Power and the Lightning. I suppose Devils and the Demons.
Similarly, people that used to watch the NEFL will know that the NT Thunder were a really well-established club. And, I think the AFL made a mistake when they didn't just upgrade the Southport Sharks into the AFL, and they created this whole new entity, because Southport Sharks, a fantastic, really strong standalone team, and you could have renamed it the Gold Coast Sharks. It already had a following.
I mean, there's precedent with that, though, because that's what they did with Adelaide, Yeah. And it's taken a long time for the Adelaide Crows to become, established. I mean, not really, but premierships help with all this sort of stuff. But
all I'm saying is NT Thunder, it's already there. The brand awareness is there. There would still be a following. I don't know if that team still exists in any sort of form since the NEFL has been sort of, if they're still playing in some sort of local competition. But, the NT Thunder, I always remember when we came up against them, it was going to be a tough game. They had Dan Ewing, who would always kick like 10 goals a game. Resurrect that, bring it back. Great colours that would be probably infringing a little bit on the Giants. I think they were sort of black, orange, and white a little bit. They're talking yellow, white, and black, I think, for this Lightning team. So the other option that they're throwing forward is a third team in sort of rural WA, but I would definitely sooner have an NT team and truly make it a national comp.
I think that it would struggle with
recruitment
and
really
pulling
hard,
players there. You know, Darwin is not high on my list of places I want to go, and I've watched a lot of Malcolm Douglas documentaries.
I'd love to watch it. I'd love to visit it once.
Yeah. I mean, have you watched any of the Malcolm Douglas documentaries from like the 70s and 80s? Oh man, they're fantastic. It's just like this old dude. He's kind of like a proto Steve Irwin. He was like an original crocodile hunter, owns this giant crocodile farm in Broome, and he just drives around making documentaries in like the Kimberleys and stuff. It's great. Good watch for anybody. Don't know what that's got to do with anything, but he does talk about how harsh the conditions are there a lot.
Yeah,
so
it would be tough as for recruitment, and in the same way that the NRL is going to find it for this PNG team that they're getting in there. So that is going to be a tough one. They're going to have to pay through the nose for anyone that they want to get in there, and that's so in that respect, maybe a third WA team is going to get the nose ahead, but yeah.
I think the thing is you've got to, and I think I might even, Danny, like about this topic a couple of weeks ago, where I sort of said, there's one thing of just putting a team where it is and then just hoping that it will work. Because I think I'm a big advocate of, I think the game where it is like the tree is already grown. The game's grown and it kind of can't really grow on like a larger scale, really that much more than it is, unless you're going to go international, which is insane. And I don't want them to do that. But at a local level, the roots are dying. You know, there's a lot of struggle with the game at a local level with funding and stuff, you know, like country footy struggling. It's working in other places, but I think one thing we might have disagreed on is location versus necessity for it to be there. Whereas if you can create an atmosphere of like, okay, it's taken what the Lions or the Bears have been around for 39 years now, I think. They came in 86.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, something like that. But the Bears came in 86 into Brisbane, and it's kind of been only in the last, I would say, 10 years that football in Brisbane and Queensland with the Gold Coast, with the academy stuff is really kind of hitting a place where you go, okay, cool. There's like a necessity for it there. So it's taken a long time. And to just go, okay, we're going to throw something in WA, in Royal WA. Do you need to promote the game at a grassroots level before you get to that point? I just think it's really, the game it's at like critical mass. So it's hard, but you need a 20th license if you go for a...
Well, I think, is there just like, are people sort of panicking in a way and want to rush it because of this fear of an uneven number of teams in the competition? It's like, we can't just sit with 19 for too long now. That's going to be weird. We need to get that 20th.
But why didn't they think about this when they were like, let's sort out this Tassie thing? Why not go, hey, shit, we need 2 teams? Like, it's not that a toddler can tell you what odd and even numbers are. And that the times before GWS came in were not great.
And then the debate begins about, you know, diluting the talent pool and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's
but
a
the
tough
talent
one.
pool, the talent pool in and of itself is growing as the game is growing. But the talent pool will get better and players will get better. And we're seeing, you know, guys are getting drafted and they're immediately making impacts on their team, which didn't really used to happen. You had some young players, but it was more established guys it was hard to break into teams. It would take years. But yeah, it seems strange not to kind of look at 2, because, you know, when the Lions and the Bears became the Lions, they had Port Adelaide there ready. You know, it was probably thrown together, and I know there was a lot of political shit going on at the time, but they were ready for it. I don't know. Focus on the local level in the women's game, things like that.
Well, I mean, and still Tassie is not really even on completely off the ground yet either. So, anyway, this is for people with bigger brains and bigger paychecks than you and I.
Yes. Well, I don't agree with the first thing. I think that the lack of this kind of discourse and this kind of, we're like the foot soldiers. We know what it's like going to the football and things like that. Whereas I think sometimes it can get a bit lost because people, executives want the game to get bigger and it's like, okay, what does that actually mean? If the game gets bigger, okay, players get paid a bit more. They're rich anyway. Cool. Like, what's the risk? Hypothetically, what's the risk if players' payment growth it didn't go up crazily? What are they going to go and play other sports around the world? Possibly, but not all of them. I don't know. I just think that we're in like an executive fictional money reality where you've got people talking about money, and it's like it's in that almost hypothetical stage, where it's like, look at the things that are not working. Look at less people are playing at local level. There's concussion stuff is important, but I think concussion on a local level is important. It's definitely something that I'm personally scared about. Shit like KO and the monopoly of the broadcasting, it's just like, it's not good for fans, and it's not good for the average person. But going back to it, in terms of the Northern Territory thing, if it is a pre-established thing, that's good. That's what you want. You want it to be a team that is necessary by what they've got around them, rather than just going, Plonk, here you go, have that, Western Sydney. Like, it's still not really working, and they're good.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is at least they've got the performances on field and have done for the last 6 or so years to sort of bring relevancy to it.
I think about this stuff too often and too much. So I'm not a smooth-brained, I think.
All right, well, that takes us to about an hour and a half for the Brisbane Lions Fancast, which is not really in our wheelhouse. So the Q Clash Saturday, 1:20 at People's First Stadium. It's a away game for us, but it is just down the road, which is good. No Touk Miller, which, on one hand is good because he's a fantastic player. On the other hand is bad because he is integral to the Q Clash. He adds to the theatre, and I love him as a player. I love Touk Miller as a player.
Integral. They've struggled without him. Even after he went off in the Collingwood game, they obviously got absolutely sandblasted by.
Because he's such a hard runner. He's such a hard runner both ways, and we saw that a couple of years ago when he did the job on Lachie Neale. And not only did he just quell Lachie Neale's performance completely, he ended up with 39 touches or something stupid of his own. And, say what you want. Obviously, he's been a big part in the rivalry and, the back and forth between him and Zork over the years. And he's sort of public enemy number one when you put a face to Q Clash. But I fucking love Touk Miller, and I wish he played for us. Like, he's a team. Like, I'm not saying I want him on my team at the expense of Josh Dunkley or whatever, but he is a player you'd love on your team.
I don't think he's ever really been public enemy number one. I think collectively for Gold Coast and Lions people, Zorko's been public enemy number one all years.
He's just sort of been like the pantomime villain, I guess, a little bit of like, oh, well, you hate Zork, well, we hate Touk.
Yeah, Riscatelli.
Whatever.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, he's a big miss. If Rioli's out, that's also a big miss. Because it's, Noble doesn't quite have the dash. He finds a lot of the ball, but I think Rioli's important for them moving the ball.
We obviously smacked him earlier in the year and in the midfield, and since then they've only lost the clearance count once, I think, maybe. Gold Coast. They obviously got their asses handed to them today from the Crows, but yeah, it's gonna be a tough game.
We've just got to win. You've just got to win, and we've just got to keep, because did I say last week about us, Senor Brooks?
You did.
If we win every game,
top of the ladder is definitely on the table, and we're now half a game behind Collingwood. But as we all know, finishing top of the ladder isn't necessarily what you need for a premiership. In fact, sometimes it works in the opposite.
Statistically, over the last group of years, it's been quite handy. Not last year, obviously, but the year before that, Collingwood, the year before that, Geelong, the year before that, Melbourne. So 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, true.
And then before that was just the Wild West of just like random stuff happening. You just don't want to finish 4th. Not 4th.
That's true.
So, yeah. I think it'll be, yeah, I hope Dunkley goes to Rowell and does what he did the first time, because that was awesome.
I think he will.
Although I think Rowell is maybe not today, but he got a lot of help from the umpires last week. Yeah, they'll be pissed off and at being humbled pretty badly in this round. So,
you can get in Mac Andrews' head, you'll at least get a couple of goals out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Andrews talking all this stuff about, like, you know, Pistons, unsociable. You know, I guarantee that if he played for the Pistons in the 80s or whatever, he wasn't the Dennis Rodman of their team that got picked up by the Bulls, I'll put it that way. He was one of the other guys that won one championship or 2 championships or whatever, and then didn't go to the Bulls to become a mega weirdo. I love Dennis Rodman, but he is so weird. Holy moly.
He's, genuine freak. All right, that'll do for the Brisbane Lions Fancast. And chuck in the tip jar, buy the shirts, follow us on socials, rate and subscribe the show, all that sort of stuff. If you've hung around this long, I mean, power to you. Thank you.
I didn't even get to pull out my accuracy.
We'll save that for next week.
Handwritten, and I guess I'll just talk to you about it afterwards. So if you can find a tally of all the topics that I brought up, dear listener, I'm curious.